Sup, sobers? Whoever's behind the marketing at the Marvel Studios department, those guys are crushing it. Because planning the Wolverine Deadpool release around the same time as Wade Wilson's ultimate trial date, just absolutely phenomenal planning on their part. They know what they're doing. Now, Wade Wilson is the alter ego of the Deadpool character, which is how the character in my story today got his name as the Deadpool Killer. His name is also Wade Wilson, Wade Stephen Wilson. Now, this case has been covered from every angle. This case has been covered so much because it is super, super high profile, very national news kind of stuff. And I think Wade himself is just the reason for the hype. He's such a character. He's got the Ted Bundy effect going for him where ladies are in love with him even though he's a crazy serial killer. He has tattoos all over his face, not just like, your average face tattoos. I guess they are just average face tattoos. But anyways, this case has just gathered so much attention that I wanted to cover it because Wade's story fits perfectly into my channel in that it focuses on mental health, substance abuse, and of course, crime. And I feel like Wade's story is one that we see quite often. Now, if you haven't heard of the Wade Wilson case, that is okay because I'll give you guys a brief overview of the case and kind of what happened and what led us to today. And then I wanted to take a little bit different of an approach to my analysis of the case because everybody's covered this one. Like, you can listen to millions of jail phone calls. You can watch hundreds of videos on people analyzing him and the psychology of girls who are fascinated by him. And I don't know, there's just so many different videos out there already about the Wade Wilson case that I wasn't really sure if I even wanted to cover it. As a parent, I really am curious listening to the true crime stories that I'm constantly listening to. How do I avoid my son falling into being one of these stories or growing up to be one of these people? And how do I avoid my son becoming a Wade Wilson? I really wanted to focus on what made Wade Wilson the tattooed Nazi crazy person that we all know about today. So I think I've kind of exhausted you guys enough. Let's just check out Wade's story.
Oh my God. Let me show you what I got. This beat is so hot. Oh my God.
Now, just as a quick overview of the case, if you haven't heard of what happened, if you haven't heard of the Florida unaliving case that Wade is convicted of, then we'll just go through it real quick. On October 2nd of 2019, so about 5 years ago, actually almost 5 years ago exactly, Wade was released from jail. He was being housed in jail for battery offense against his girlfriend Mila. Surprisingly enough, his girlfriend Mila was coming to the jail to pick him up because he was being released. So somebody's got to pick him up, Picks him up, everything's fine, they're enjoying their life, they're making plans for things to be better than they were before. Mila's got a great job at a spa. Wade is a personal trainer. So they're both working, things are going well. On October 7th, the two of them are out at a bar called Buddha's. They both go together with a couple of friends. They're hanging out, drinking. Wade is hanging out with some people at the bar, and these people are showing him pictures of substances, and it's just making him want them. So he decides that he's going to roll with these people over to this guy Jason's house. So Jason, Wade, this girl Kristine, and Kristine's friend Stephanie all load up in a car. Now, it's not Wade's car, it's not Jason's car, it's Mila's car. Now, Mila comes out and realizes that Wade is leaving in her car, but she can't do anything about it. So all she does is she calls a girlfriend and she has her friend pick her up, and then she stays the night at her friend's house. She's wasted. It's, 2 a.m. Bars are closing down. She just figured it's Wade being Wade, and she's just going to go home and sleep it off, and they'll figure it out in the morning. Now, the substances that Wade thought he was doing at Jason's house don't turn out to be the substances that he thought he was doing. It sounds like he thought he was doing one white powder, but it was actually a more crystallized powder. Obviously very different, but needless to say, Wade and Kristine and Stephanie are trying to keep the party going. They don't want to leave, but now Jason's mom is kicking everybody out. So Jason asks them all to leave. He stays at his house, and the three of them, they load up in the Dodge Hellcat, and they're going to head over to Kristine's place. As they do that, the Hellcat actually runs out of gas. So The car is stuck there. They're kind of stranded. Kristine decides, forget this, I'm just going to call an Uber and we can take an Uber back to my place. So that's what they do. They take an Uber back to Kristine's place. After about 20 minutes, Stephanie decides she's going to leave. She's going to take off. I don't know why, she's just burnt out. I mean, it's probably not going to be fun for her because Kristine and Wade are just hooking up the whole time. And this is all according to Wade. At some point after they hook up, Kristine falls asleep. And Wade decides that he is going to strangle her. He says that it was super quick and he honestly just got this urge, this feeling that he wanted to do it. So he did. Now, since Wade's freaking out, he doesn't know what to do with this whole body situation. He's high, really high. He can't figure anything out. He can't think straight. All he can think to do is he needs to get a phone and he needs to get a hold of Mila. He needs to call her and see if she can provide some sort of comfort or answers or something, I guess. So he reaches out to her, but he doesn't have a phone of his own. So he has to use Kristine's phone. So he grabs Kristine's phone and he uses her lifeless body to unlock the phone with Face ID. And then proceeds to call Mila and says he wants to meet her at the spa. They can load up, then they can go over and find her car because her car ran out of gas. So she agrees to this. Wade just decides he's going to leave Kristine's body there, not do anything about it. But he does lock the door to the house before he leaves, and then he steals Kristine's car so he can head over to the spa. Once Wade gets to the spa, he sees Mila there, and she brought a friend with her for protection because she can tell that Wade's aggravated. He has a history of abusing her. And not only that, but she's just scared generally. After what happened the night before, she doesn't know what to think. And she knows he's been doing substances. So she takes a little bit of caution and brings her friend along. And as Wade rolls up, he is already super aggressive, telling her she needs to get in the car, telling her that she just needs to hop in and they can get going and he'll show her where the car is, and starting to ask her why she left him last night and getting really aggressive. He also says that he was trying to tell her about what he had just done, but she wouldn't listen. And so at some point he decides he's going to get out of the car and he tries to forcefully get Mila into the car. As he gets out of the car's still in drive. So it just starts rolling away, smashes into another car in the parking lot. While that happens, Wade seems completely unfazed. He's just in Mila's face, putting his hands on her, trying to force her to get in the car. And she's continuing to refuse, so at some point he punches her really hard in the face. Mila finally gets this opportunity to break free from Wade, and she runs as far away as she can over towards her friend. Wade realizes this is not going how he thought it would or how he wanted it to. He's probably got adrenaline fully coursing through his body at this point, on top of whatever substances he's currently on as well. So he decides to go hop back in the car. He peels out and takes off and just disappears, and everybody's just kind of left super confused, scared, and also just kind of shocked, really. Immediately they reach out to police, get the police involved, let them know what happened because Wade just got released from jail for this exact same thing, putting his hands on Mila, and they're trying to figure out where he went and what happened and get the story from her. Wade, on the other hand, is just driving aimlessly, trying to figure out his current situation. He's freaking out. He knows he just really is in a bad spot. But at the same time, he's also really high and he is super mad because of what just happened with Mila. And it seems like he has a tendency to take his anger out on other people. So while he's driving, he sees a young lady. Her name's Diana Ruiz. She's just walking along the road on her way to work. And somehow Wade, and I don't know how he does this because the dude looks absolutely insane in all the pictures I saw, but Wade convinces her to hop in the car in order to show him exactly where this high school is down the road. He saw the directions for it, but as he was driving through the neighborhood, he couldn't find it. And so he asked her to please just hop in and help me find it. And she agrees. And so once they get to the high school, they park, they stop. He says, thanks for giving me the directions. But Wade says that he can just sense the fear in Diana's eyes, just in her demeanor. He can just sense it. He says it's like a predator sensing the fear of its prey. It's chilling. But he could sense that she was probably going to leave that situation, and the paranoia of her going and turning him in was starting to kick in. So as she's about to get out of the car, he reaches over and starts strangling her, just like he did to Kristine. She passes out, but she's not unalived at this point. He starts to drive away, and he drives around for a few minutes before he realizes, there's no situation where this is going to end good for me. At that same time, Diana kind of wakes up and starts to come to, and she starts to try and get out of the car. So Wade pushes her out of the car and then immediately drives over her 10 to 20 times with the car. He said he drove over her so many times, basically until he saw that she wasn't moving anymore and her limbs looked completely mangled and disfigured. Even Wade, when describing the scene to the cops, said it was completely disgusting and they did not want to see it. Wade ends up taking Diana's body and he hides it somewhere. From there, he goes over to a place called Mateo's Graphics to speak with one of his quote-unquote business associates. And it sounds like what he was doing there was asking this friend for a bus ticket to get him out of town, says he's in trouble, he needs some serious help. There's video surveillance of this, and the friend also says that he showed up with blood all over his hands and shirt. He wasn't wearing any shoes, and he just seemed like really out of it. And then once the friend went back inside to try and let him know, yeah, man, that's cool, I'll go get you a bus ticket, he decided to call the cops instead. Since he realizes that this guy's going to call the cops, Wade just takes off. He runs. They have no idea where he disappears to. The cops show up eventually, and that's where they find Kristine's car, and that's where they, start talking with this guy at Mateo's Graphics about what he saw and his encounter. And they're starting to piece this whole story together on top of the whole situation with Mila. According to Wade, after all this happened, he just took off and he just went across the street a little ways over near some tennis courts, and he just sat down somewhere in the shade, and he said that he proceeded to watch the cops for about 8 hours. And then after that, he says he took a nap and then decided that he was going to go try and find a place to stay. And so he ended up breaking into some old lady's house, and he went and kind of stayed in her shed for a little while. And then when that older lady came home, he kind of popped out, and she noticed that he was there, and she started, yelling and telling him that she was going to call the cops. And he basically ignored everything she was saying. And it sounds like from there, he just took off and just kind of disappeared. Now, eventually, cops put this all together. They start to figure out they've got 2 bodies here. They've got this story with this girl, Mila, about her boyfriend who's off the rails. This car belongs to this girl who is unalived. And then also in the same area as where this car was found is another body. So they start to put all the pieces together, and obviously Wade is brought in for questioning. Now, when he's brought in for questioning, he says that he was actually still high on whatever substance he was doing, and if it was the white snowy powder, then likely he wouldn't still be as high as he says he was. So I kind of think that it was something different, but that's neither here nor there, really. Wade isn't really forthcoming at first, but eventually he does confess to both of the crimes, and he's obviously kept in jail and then held for the next 5 years until his trial, which was just recently, which is why this case is blown up so hard just recently. So what made Wade? Well, let's find out. Wade was born May 20th, 1994. He was born to teenage parents. I had a really hard time finding any information literally at all about Wade's mom, but his dad's name is Steven Testaseca. He rekindled a relationship with him when he was 18, so there's a lot more information about him. But when Wade was born, his teenage parents they were both struggling with mental health, substance abuse issues, and they just weren't really fit to take care of a new baby. So they were going to church at the time, and there was an amazing family there, the Wilson family. Mom and dad were Cindy and Steve Wilson, and they decided that they were going to adopt Wade, take him into their home, offer him a better life than what his actual parents thought that they could offer him. So I think that was kind of noble, trying to give him the best situation possible and hopefully set him up for success. It sounds like things were going great. In fact, there wasn't really a whole lot of red flags or anything serious happening until about the age of 13. At age 13, that's when Wade self-proclaimed starts using substances. Not only that, but Wade's adoptive dad, Steve, finds some substances in his room, and based on that, submits him for the Baker's Act, which basically means they can take him into custody and do an evaluation on him and kind of just like a welfare check almost, just to make sure that he's okay, because his parents were concerned about him. Now, Wade grew up in Tallahassee with the Wilson family. He went to Deer Lake Middle School, and then he eventually went to Lawton Chili's High School. That's where he played sports, and sounds like he got really good grades. Sounds like he did pretty well in school. He was involved athletically. And it's said, though, that within some of these sports, he suffered some of traumatic brain injuries. He remembers at least getting 1 concussion when he was in high school. And one of the things that I've thought as I've researched this case and dug a little deeper on everything is I think that Wade might have been suffering from what's called CTE, or chronic traumatic encephalopathy. Now, I wasn't able to find a whole lot of information about Wade during this time period. A majority of what I found was just a few classmates that kind of talked about what he was like back in high school and middle school. And at age 13 in middle school, this girl recalls seeing Wade at lunch, they kind of sat with the same group of friends at lunch, and she said she thought it was weird because nobody would eat food. They would just pass substances around. And I thought that was crazy because at 13, like, I don't know, I wasn't thinking about anything remotely related to substances at 13. Like, so that was kind of striking. And that obviously shows that he's just digging deeper and deeper into this hole starting at a very young age. Once he got to high school, the same classmate recalls him and his best friend throughout school wearing black hoodies with the hoods up all the time. She says that they were always talking about substances. He was the first person that she ever smoked Mary Jane with in high school. And so it doesn't sound like anybody had great memories of them. And it sounds like, I mean, they said things like they just look so eerie. They just gave you weird vibes. And most of what everybody else remembers is Wade just being a ladies' man. He was always flirting with someone, he always had a girl on his side is what they remember. So there was a girl who reported that she dated Wade in high school, and when they were in class, he at some point stole money out of her desk, and she reported it to the teacher. And the teacher wanted to hold whoever it was accountable, so he told everybody that nobody was leaving school for the day because the final bell was going to ring until whoever it was fessed up for it, and they figured the situation out. Nobody ended up fessing up for the situation, and nobody ended up saying it was them, and nothing ended up happening. They eventually got to a point where they just had to let the students go home. It was too late in the day. They can't just keep them there all day. But she knows that it was Wade, and not only that, but he had stolen from her in the past multiple times as well while they were dating. And on top of stealing from her, Wade also was known to cheat on the same girl with multiple other girls. So she said, quote, "He just wasn't very respectable to me." And I mean, yet again, just shows he really is continuing down this deep, dark hole of substance use. He's getting some sort of this cocky attitude, a lot of confidence to where he feels like he can just treat people however he wants, giving very narcissistic energy for sure. But more than anything, classmates also reported that he just didn't seem to have any sort of respect for authority. And I think that a healthy disrespect for authority is great. I think you should always question authority. I'm 100% on board with that. But just being blatantly disrespectful and just kind of going against the grain and being rebellious in the ways that he was isn't constructive. It's not questioning authority. It's challenging authority. And not only that, it's just being irresponsible more than anything else. But Wade was not really remembered to be the most upstanding guy in high school. He was kind of known to be a player, kind of into substance use, and he got good grades up until the point he was actually expelled from school because he was said to be smoking Mary Jane in the bathroom and caught a toilet paper roll on fire. And so that obviously alerted the school staff, and then he was expelled for it. But it's said that he was still able to graduate, and it's assumed that he graduated sometime in 2013. Now, around the same time after graduating, this is when things start to go really downhill for Wade. He starts getting in trouble with the law. And if we go through here, I've actually got his arrest record starting, October 1st, 2013. Looks like he was arrested for resisting an officer without violence, burglary of a conveyance, which is like car theft, grand theft, which would be car theft, and criminal mischief. So starts getting into trouble, car break-in. We got awesome little mugshot, still baby Wade. Then if we move on up, looks like 2 years later. And that's because Wade was actually incarcerated for that crime for about a year. Wade is arrested January 7th, 2015. If we look here, arrested by the Tallahassee Police Department, age 21, resisting an officer without violence, contributing to the delinquency or dependency of a child, SA with a weapon, battery of a victim 12 years of age or older, SA with a weapon, battery on a victim 12 years of age or older, kidnapping. So this is a very similar crime to crimes that we'll see him committing in the future. But at 21, this is super serious, and it was to somebody who was obviously under the age of 18. Usually they only put 12 years of age or older if they're a minor. So this person was a minor. It was said that he invited this girl after meeting her at a party back to his SUV. And while they were at this SUV, he held her at gunpoint, tied her up, and then was trying to force her to do certain things, and then SA'd her in this car. Now, he goes to trial for this, and he was actually acquitted on for the charges, so he didn't have to face any time for this offense. Then we go not very much further. Looks like the same crime, possession of a weapon, grand theft of firearm, making false report, giving false information. So likely he said that it was not his firearm, and then they found out that it actually was, and then they charged him for it. But still young little Wade here. Now let's move on. Not even a year later, December 6th, 2016. Not even a year later. This is crazy. Possession of a firearm, grand theft of a firearm, 3 counts of that. Now, I don't really know the story, but he was convicted of stealing a firearm and possessing it while not being able to possess a firearm. So got in trouble for that for sure. Then we move on up to June 1st of 2017. Exact same charges, exact same situation. I'm not sure exactly what the story is behind these two, but stealing firearms, he's involved with guns, he's involved with substances. It sounds like he's just turning into a career criminal, slowly but surely, and his crimes are escalating as we continuously see in most true crime cases. Now let's move on up to January 30th, 2019, out of county warrant. So they had a warrant for his arrest for something, and he wasn't in their county, so they went and arrested him. Stolen property, dealing traffic, stolen property, false owner info, pawned items, $300 or more. The girlfriend that he was dating at the time, which is a pretty popular person in this case, she's blown up on social media because she recounts her whole story and her whole time with Wade as her partner. And it said during this time, she said that he stole a bunch of her stuff without saying anything to her, of course, and then went and pawned it all and was trying to get whatever, probably substance abuse money from it. And she was never able to prove it. It sounds like he was obviously arrested for it, but the reason that he was arrested was because she also brought other charges against him because she says that he SA'd her in a car, kind of in the very same way that he did previously. He drove her, kidnapped her, drove her all the way down to the Florida Keys, and while they were down there, he kind of locked her in the car, tied her up with her own clothes. He held her down there and then forced her to do, SA things to him. Basically, after that, just got out of her car and then found some other girl, got in her car and left with her, leaving his girlfriend Kelly literally in the Keys, having just been SA'd and violated. It said she drove like 100 miles an hour back to where she was from, and then immediately went and found her mom, and then they went and made a police report.
So this is us. I went to the news after all of this had happened to tell them about what he did to me. Obviously, he had no facial tattoos then. This is us again. I dated this man for a few months. He lived with me, and on my birthday, February 2019, he actually kidnapped me, tied me up, bound and gagged me, threw me in the back of my car, and drove me to the Keys, which is 3.5 hours from where I lived in Florida. I went to the police. You might have to pause to read it, but I did go to the police. I went to the police right after. I drove back from the Keys at 4 a.m., going 100 miles an hour, trying to get someone to help me. This is where he bit my face. He bit me, he busted my lip open. I had ligature marks on my hands and knees and my neck. I had fingerprints on my neck. I had a severely busted lip. This is my lip. So all of these photos were taken by me or the police officers on their cell phones. I do have over 200 photos that they took at the hospital at what they called the Butterfly House when I had my interview, because I had to have a assault kit done because I was assaulted. I was in the hospital for several hours. I lost my job because they thought I was lying to them. So I don't know if it's because of his trial or not, but I could not access even the affidavit or my story or anything when I went to go look for it again. I have it all typed up from the day after, I believe. Here's another thing you might have to pause to read. So Detective Potter was the detective on the case. He told me that he went and interviewed Wade, who for the entirety of our relationship, he told me his name was Steven. He wouldn't show me his license. I found out that Steven was actually his middle name later. So Detective Potter told me that he went down to the Keys, did a DNA test, and spoke to Wade in person. And Wade told him that I was into that kind of thing, and that's why, like, I was tied up and stuff like that. I had to remind the detective that I had a busted face, that Wade had stolen my phone and sold it for crack while I was bound and gagged, tied up underneath a blanket in the back of my car. This man drove through a McDonald's while I was tied up in the back of my car, naked, bound and gagged. Literally, I had a shirt tied around my face. I had leggings in my mouth. My foot was broken because he slammed it in the door. So when I heard the trial of him doing that to Kristine Melton, tying her up with her own clothes, it brought back a lot of feelings for me. I hadn't spoken out about this as much. Lots of people know, and I've obviously talked to the news, but I haven't posted a lot about it since it happened, because Wade would find ways to contact me while he was in jail. He would use other people's accounts, or he would call from other people's numbers. And the last time I spoke to him, I believe last year or the year before, I told him I wanted nothing to do with him. I would see him at his trial date or when they put him to death, whatever. I wanted nothing to do with him, and he promised that he would see me later. So I was a little hesitant about telling the whole world about this, because I was afraid that he was going to get out and come after me. I actually moved over an hour away from where I lived because I was just afraid that he was going to find me and try to kill me. His girlfriend after me, her friends had reached out to me to tell me that he was abusing her. So I spoke to her. I explained to her what he did to me and warned her, but he's charismatic. He's 6'5". He's a good looking dude. Well, he was. He's not anymore. So, he's a smooth talker. He persuaded her to stay, and he almost did the same thing to her. He beat the crap out of her. He, tied her up and threw her out naked in the parking lot. It's the fact that the police department failed me so severely by not even arresting this man on a suspicion after I had gone to the hospital with injuries and sexual assault, and literally a knife in my car that he had used. He had cut my OnStar so that no one could find me if I did use it. Just after he did all of that, he met up with a girl. And handed me my keys back and left.
Let's keep moving right on down the list. In April 21st of 2019, which Wade is still out because he wasn't convicted of anything, he was driving while his license was suspended. Another driving while license was suspended, April 29th, 2019. I don't even understand how he was out to be able to do that, but he was. And then we move on up here. To July 1st, 2019. This is the battery, touch or strike. That's the charges that Mila actually brought against Wade from the original attack. It sounds like he tied her up just like his previous girlfriend and was essaying her and doing awful things to her, and then she did report him for it. At this point, they had not been dating for very long. They had just recently started dating, and then he does this to her. But this he actually was charged with, and that's why he ended up going to jail. He was in jail for about 3.5 months before he was released, and that's when Mila picks him up, and that's where our story begins. If we keep on going down the list, though, it looks like he had a failure to appear on July 31st, did not appear for his court date, so he was probably arrested for that and then held. And then the last one that we see is battery, causing bodily harm, burglary, larceny, and damage to property. This is for the charges that were brought against him again by Mila. This would be the day after the unalivings happened. These were the charges that she called the police about, which actually clued them into the unalivings being related to this case. Before that, they were just two random bodies that they had found. They had no idea of who was responsible for this. But once Mila called in and had this whole report and they kind of started piecing things together, that's how they ended up getting Wade. And really, they got Wade because he confessed multiple times to it. Then he tried to change his story, saying that some gang was setting him up for all of this, and this was all somebody else's fault, and he just happened to be an innocent bystander doing his own thing in all of this. And the facts that he had Kristine's car is just, she was just letting him use it. And like, it just, his new story is just a bunch of baloney. But yeah, so he's confessed multiple times to the crimes because immediately after the crimes happened, he called his actual biological dad, who he'd reconnected with at 18. I think they had a lot to bond over because his dad seems like he's been through some shit as well. And so he has a lot of like wisdom and guidance that he can offer. And so I think they bond over a lot, and he goes to him a lot for help. And so I think he was going to his dad for help in this situation as well. And he called his dad, letting him know that he did all these awful things. And instead of helping him, his dad did the smart thing. And unfortunately for Wade, turned him in. So, I mean, it sucks for Wade to have been turned in by his own dad, but his dad did the right thing. Otherwise, he's just an accessory to these unalivings. And not only that, but he's not doing the right thing. And his dad sounds like he has a really good head on his shoulders. All right, and that's going to bring us up to today, where Wade is actually sitting on death watch in a Rayford County Correctional Facility, and this is a mugshot of him currently. Looks like he shaved his head. The crazy thing about all of his face tattoos and all of his tattoos on his, like, that are above his neckline, is that he got all of those after he got arrested for these unalivings, which to me is just like the ultimate I don't actually care at all. Literally zero F's given. In terms of the trial, it took a really long time to get to the trial. This all happened in 2019, and we only just recently had any sort of resolve to this case this year. And the reason for that is Wade's had multiple issues with his attorneys over the years. He actually had one of his defense attorneys had passed away during all of this, so then he had to get new attorneys come in and them get acclimated to the case. And then on top of all of that, he's constantly filing motions against his attorneys, saying that they're not representing him fully, that they don't think that he's going to win or has zero chance of winning. So there was just a lot of stuff that went on keeping this case delayed for a really long time. On top of that, they had to do multiple psych evaluations to try and get an idea of whether he's competent to stand trial, and to get an idea of whether or not the defense's case is that he had traumatic brain injuries that caused him to act these crimes out and to be this way. And because it was untreated for so long, that he eventually was led into these unalivings. Once they actually finally get to the trial, they do a lot of scans on his actual brain to see like what kind of damage there was to his brain, because he does have a history of multiple, traumatic brain injuries.
It tells us that he has some frontal lobe damage.
So, if we put all that information together, what kind of conclusions did you come to as regarding Mr. Wilson's his brain injuries?
There are two basic conclusions. One, with the ventricular asymmetry. Ventricular asymmetry can be a normal finding, but in the setting of psychiatric disease, it indicates cognitive and emotional dysfunction.
Okay. How does that manifest itself in somebody's conduct?
It's going to cause worse behavior. It's going to cause less thinking. Evidence of some brain injury. The atrophy of his superior anterior temporal lobes as well as his frontal lobes is an important combination. When you have atrophy of your amygdala, which is one of your main points of your limbic system, it creates for emotional instability. It makes you more likely to get mad and not be able to calm yourself down. The frontal lobe impairments cause one to be more likely to be impulsive and act without regard to consequence. Act without plan. More likely to be irritated and agitated. And the frontal lobe is also important for stopping behavior arising out of your temporal lobe.
Is it practical to assume that these injuries to the brain occurred contemporaneous with the traffic accidents?
The location of this, at least the atrophy, is typical
Of the what? I'm sorry?
of the atrophy, the shrinkage,
Okay.
where it pulls away from the skull, is typical of trauma to the brain. That's where the skull is the hardest, and that's where it beats up on the brain the most.
So if Mr. Wilson has been in custody since the date of his arrest, which was 2 days after the incident, presumably he had this same brain injury back in 2019.
Yes, but atrophy takes time to develop. It didn't just occur in the last year. It's probably been occurring over the last several years.
Okay. Is there anything that can be done to repair or replace?
No, but medication can be helpful at modifying his behavior, mostly from psychiatric disease, because this isn't somebody with this injury on top of bipolar disorder, major depression, schizoaffective disorder, whatever it may be. It's going to make it worse. So if you at least treat the psychiatric disease and basically a simple answer is this can be treated.
CTE is something that can very much affect people in the ways that it affected Wade. It can make you irritable. It can limit your ability to navigate impulses. You have no impulse control. It makes you violent. It makes you angry for whatever reason. And there's multiple cases of that we've seen in the past. The Chris Benoit case is one example. The Phillip Adams case, that's another one. It was an NFL player. That's big in football. They get hit so much. They get concussions all the time. And it can damage your brain permanently. And this guy unalived 6 people before unaliving himself in a standoff with the police. So CTE is very serious, and it's something that we don't really know that much about yet. It's something that's still pretty new in science. And then not only that, but you can't even diagnose it until the person has died, because that's the only way you can actually examine the brain fully enough to decide whether or not they truly had CTE. In Wade's case, I personally think he definitely had a case of CTE that was on top of that exacerbated by his substance use. I mean, substance use alone is going to give you these kinds of symptoms, but when you also suffer from a traumatic head injury that leads to some sort of mental health disorder, especially when left untreated for as long as it was, it's going to lead to something like this. One thing that I talk about all the time is that substance use is regularly just a mask for the symptoms of mental health disorders. You're so uncomfortable in your own skin, you feel so depressed and anxious or whatever the case is that you don't know how to manage it or handle it, and you turn to substance use to help soothe those symptoms and make you feel more comfortable and make you feel like you can handle it. And sometimes those substances just give you a false sense of, of feeling, of emotion, of security, or like you've got things under control. It seems like Wade was definitely trying to mask the symptoms of his mental health issues by using substances. He doesn't really know why he continues to use substances, but he continues to revert back to them. One of the main ones is probably one of the worst ones, and that is what they think he was on the night that all these unalivings happened and that he kind of lost his mind. And even Wade himself, in these phone calls I'm going to play, he describes himself how it was the substances that make him absolutely crazy. Let's just hear it from Wade in his own words and kind of get a better picture of what we think caused all this.
What, baby?
You can talk in code or whatever you have to. Just please.
No, baby, they already know. I don't have to talk in code.
Well, then tell me what happened then.
I fucking killed the bitch.
Why, Wade? Why?
Because we went to this dude's house, Mila, and remember when he kept showing us the pictures? Oh, I got this, or whatever.
Yes.
So I went to his house and I did a lot of it. Like, he was giving me a lot, and I was doing a lot of.
The girl.
Huh?
Why did you kill that girl?
I shouldn't have. I'm wrong.
Tell me what happened. Did you have sex with her? You went and killed her? What?
No, I didn't have sex with her. I killed her though.
Why? Why, Wade?
Because I was fucking freaking out on those drugs. Whatever he gave me must have been like fucking bath salts or something else. It wasn't cocaine.
Why did you kill the first girl? I want to know why. Why did you kill her? I want to know why.
Because I wanted to.
Why did you want to kill her?
I just wanted to.
More than I want to.
Honestly, can I tell you what happened? That dude that gave me the drugs, do you know what he gave me?
What?
Meth.
Okay, well, we know you don't do good on math, but why?
Okay.
What made you kill that girl?
I was angry. I got on meth and I got really fucking crazy. You know that.
Angry with her?
I don't know. I don't think I was angry with her. I think I just took it out on her.
Why did you choke this girl out? I need answers. I don't understand.
Okay, I choked her out because I was on meth and she it made me fucking mad.
When you were driving, and you were driving in front of the school, how did you know, or when did you decide? When did you see her? When did you decide that you were?
I was on a rampage at this point, I guess you could say. I was on drugs.
Okay.
I was when I get on drugs, I do the wrong things out of my mind. I was out of my mind, and I was just randomly driving. I was just honestly having a random drive. I saw her walking down the road. Like the school's right here. She was like a couple streets over, not far. And I picked her up first. And I just remember passing the school, and the way to get her in my car, I put the window down and I said, "Hey, do you know where the high school is? Where the school's at? Can you show me?" She said, "It's right down there." And I said, "I drove by there and I didn't see it. Can you please show me?" She got in my car. That's all it took. Yeah, that's all it took.
Okay.
Got her right in my car. And then from there, we drove to the school, and I was going to drop her off. But I knew in my mind I was going to drop her off. But she wanted to get dropped off there. I said, "Okay, you can go." As soon as she wanted to get out, whatever, grabbed her by the neck and choked her. Okay, I went to my girls first. That didn't work out right.
Right.
And then I went back to the cave like that. Somehow I found my way back to the cave. Didn't even need to go there. And I was like, you know what? I've already done it once. I'm going to do it again. And I was on a lot of drugs. Whatever dude's house we went to the night before, he kept giving me so many drugs. I thought I was doing cocaine. It wasn't cocaine. It must have been like bath salts or Flacco because it just made me lose my fucking mind. I do cocaine. We know what cocaine is. Nowadays people are doing fentanyl and all this other bullshit. You never know if you're doing cocaine or not. And whatever cocaine he kept giving me a lot of, it just made me fucking get crazy. It made me get real crazy. I'm not like that. I'm not that type of guy. I'm normal. I'm sober. I'm actually like a decent guy. When I get that way, I become the devil.
How come you didn't kill your girlfriend?
Sweet people around me. And plus, I actually you got feelings for her? Yeah. Love it. There you go. That's what I was going to say. I wouldn't kill her. I would never kill her. I would never. Even if I was probably so out of my mind. But I don't know. I can never say if I would or not, right? If it's out of my mind, I'm out of my mind. So who knows? Yeah. So, but I probably wouldn't kill her, even given the chance. I'm eager for those french fries.
Or they hit you.
And you still take drugs?
Stupid, right?
Well, yeah.
It's the dumbest thing ever. And then I really hallucinate and trip. And I see things that aren't there. I hear things. I look, it's like crazy shit. I become, it's crazy. And now I ruined my whole life because of this. Because I couldn't stop taking drugs and just be a normal guy.
So, yesterday when I was in here with you, talking with you, I was with a different detective.
Right.
I asked you all these questions. You just straight up lying.
Yeah.
Did you kind of figure that at some point that we would, figure it out, or why the change of heart? Why did you want to?
Because my dad told me to do the right thing.
Your dad told you to?
And I want to do the right thing because I learned that he has kids and a family, and that these people are probably thinking maybe she's still alive, and they're hoping that their mom comes home, or whatever, and she's not going to. And I deserve to put the body back in the right hands of the family so they can lay her to rest.
Well, either way, just like I told you when we first came in here, I can't guarantee you or promise you anything that they're going to allow you to eat, hamburgers and french fries.
They're going to fucking do it, or else they're never going to fucking find her because she's fucking ducked off. They're not going to fucking find her. So if they want to know where she's at, they can trade a fucking pack of fucking french fries to know where she's at, and they will. And I know they will. So I'll show you where for that. That's all I want.
So you're not willing to look at a map at all to give us an idea of where we're going?
I want to show you. I want to see the dead body. I want to remember this shit, how bad a fucking person I was. And I want to keep it honest. And I want to see what I did. And I want to show you in person. That's what I want. It's what I want. This is what you want. Get what you want, and I get what I want. Both of them. Here's what I want. I want french fries, a Big Mac, and an Oreo McFlurry. I'm not going to have these things.
Whoa.
The Oreo McFlurry took it too far.
You're adding shit now, man. Before
I'm not going to have anything, any shit, bro. Just hear me out for the rest of my life. I'm going to die in prison and never get this up again. So just give it to me and I'll show you where it's at.
I gotta ask you a question about that. I'm gonna sound like a total asshole when I ask you this, but I'm gonna do it anyway. You really think that you deserve that? Fair enough. I appreciate you being honest.
No, I don't deserve it.
Do you feel remorseful for anything you've done on the past 2 days?
That's why I decided to do this.
If you could go back in time to Sunday night when you met Mila, would you do anything different?
All of it.
You wouldn't have done any of
I wouldn't even got on drugs. Yeah. I would do this. Yeah, I wouldn't have done.
And the thing with those calls for me is like it's already chilling and crazy enough that he's admitting to all these things, just admitting to them, but he's doing it so stoically and callously. Like he's more worried about getting a cheeseburger and some fries out of the deal to like get his way than he is about actually helping the families out. And he's not really concerned about helping the cops out. And that's been kind of the theme throughout his whole trial and everything. That was what most of the comments said. He's constantly seen smirking, smiling. Even when he was given his official sentence, he was like just talking to his attorneys. He didn't seem fazed at all by the fact that he just got sentenced to be unalived for his crimes. While awaiting trial, Wade was still involved in criminal activity. It didn't stop when he was arrested. He was found with the bar on his window and the glass cracked and some stuff in his cell removed, which they assumed was an attempted escape. So he got escape charges slapped on him. And then he was also traced back to some substance distribution network that was outside of the prison, still committing crimes while he's in jail. And then not only that, but he's using all these women who are fascinated and totally in love with him. He's schmoozing them into sending him money for his commissary and for his kiosk so he can talk to people, and just still like taking advantage of people. It's clear he really only has one person in mind and one person that he actually gives any fucks about, and that is Wade Wilson. So that's just a continuous theme throughout this entire case. And I think substance use can definitely lead somebody to do the crazy things that he did. But a significant mental health disorder is what leads somebody to act the way that Wade acts. Like he has no remorse. He seems so above it all. He seems like he has no respect for authority, no respect for anybody or anything other than himself. I feel like Wade's brain is just so damaged that it probably didn't have a chance. One of the things that really struck me as I was doing all my research was that Wade's adoptive parents mentioned that there was kind of this sudden shift with him when he was in high school, and saying that he went from being an active to an inactive member of the family. One of the main symptoms of CTE, or like a traumatic brain injury having a serious effect on your brain or causing a mental health disorder, is a sudden unexplained mood shift that isn't just like, mood shift for the day. It's like a consistent long-term mood shift that you see almost a full personality shift. And so that was one of the things that really kind of struck me and made me feel more strong about the CTE possibility. I don't know, just something to think about, especially if you have kids who play sports, or if you yourself have played sports. If you start to notice aggressive tendencies, then it might be something where you need to look into possible mental health issues that could have been caused from traumatic brain injury. We see it all the time, and especially with the more we learn about CTE, every day we're learning more and more about it, and there's more and more people who experience CTE, and unfortunately, not all of the end results are great. In fact, they're usually not. Not only does it lead to early deaths in the victims, they usually don't live very long, but then it can also turn into things like what happened with Wade. So I don't know. I just, with all the hype around the Wade Wilson case, I wanted to, throw my 2 cents in on the matter, especially because it fits so perfectly with my niche and what I'm trying to do here. And regardless of what substances or what was mentally wrong with Wade Wilson, nothing justifies what he did. 2 beautiful, innocent women were taken from this world because of it. Diana was a mother. She was going to be getting married. She had a fiance. Kristine was an amazing person. She sounds like just a bright, beautiful human being that everybody loved to be around. She sounds like she was a lot of fun. And unfortunately, both women were taken from this earth way too soon by somebody who was struggling and didn't have any sort of concern about trying to figure out that struggle, trying to take care of himself and trying to figure out what might be going on upstairs, so that this kind of thing is avoided. Instead, it's almost like he embraced the persona of who he was. He embraced the fact that he's a hardened criminal. I mean, even in some of the jail calls, he says with Mila, like, come on, Mila, you knew I was a killer. You knew I was a killer. And I don't know. I just wanted to cover a different aspect of the case and kind of see what leads to somebody becoming this kind of monster. And with all the hype around Wade Wilson right now and everybody knowing exactly how much of a monster he is with how gruesome and violent his crimes were, I wanted to see, what made Wade? What made him this way? And I think in a lot of my stories now, I'm seeing a consistent theme of untreated mental health mixed with substance use, going continuously untreated for long periods of time, then leads to people then losing their life. I mean, I listen to so much true crime. Like, I'm always thinking, I hope my son doesn't turn out like this. What would I do if I was Wade Wilson's dad? It just naturally sparked that question of, what made Wade this way? What can I do to keep my son from being this way? I'll let you guys be the judge. Drop it in the comments what you guys think below. And I don't know, go listen to some of those jail phone calls because they're honestly really interesting. Currently, Wade is sitting on death watch in a Rayford County prison. I've got a video here that'll show you just what the conditions look like, and it doesn't look good. But that's where you'll end up if you kind of go off the rails like Wade did. But this story is wild, and I want to hear what you guys have to say about it because, well, I always want to hear what you guys have to say. And I'm curious to know what you guys think about my theory about the whole CTE thing and about how it maybe affected this whole case in general. So drop a comment below and let me know what you think. And of course, if you like this episode, hit that thumbs up button. And if you don't subscribe to the channel, please subscribe to my channel so that you won't miss any future episodes. And it also helps my channel out a little bit. But I really appreciate you guys watching and sticking around for this long. And if you have any case ideas or anything else you want me to cover or anybody else you want me to talk about, yet again, drop me a comment. If you're struggling in any way with mental health, substance abuse, relationships, whatever the issue is, feel free to drop me a comment. Feel free to hit me up on my Instagram. Feel free to find me, and I'm always down to help out, and I'm always down to respond. And that's what I'm here for. I'm trying to help. But my name is DJ Petrovsky. Thanks for hanging out and listening to another sobering story. And that's all I got for you today, you guys. Later, sobers.
Oh my